Hunting Worse Than Slavery by Graf Leo Tolstoy. We were hunting bears. My companion had a chance to shoot at a bear. He wounded him, but only in a soft spot. A little blood was left on the snow, but the bear got away. We met in the forest and began to discuss what to do, whether to go and find that bear, or to wait 2 or 3 days until the bear should lie down again. We asked the peasant bear drivers whether we could now surround the bear. An old bear driver said, "No, we must give the bear a chance to calm himself. In about 5 days it will be possible to surround him, but if we go after him now he will only be frightened and will not lie down." But a young bear driver disputed with the old man and said that he could surround him now. "Over this snow," he said, "the bear cannot get away far, he is fat. He will lie down today again, and if he does not I will overtake him on snowshoes." My companion, too, did not want to surround the bear now, and advised waiting. But I said, "What is the use of discussing the matter? Do as you please, but I will go with Mayan along the track. If we overtake him, so much is gained. If not, I have nothing else to do today anyway, and it is not yet late." And so we did. My companions went to the sleigh and back to the village, but Mayan and I took bread with us and remained in the woods. When all had left us, Mayan and I examined our guns, tucked our fur coats over our belts and followed the track. It was fine weather, chilly and calm, but walking on snowshoes was a hard matter. The snow was deep and powdery. The snow had not settled in the forest, and besides, fresh snow had fallen on the day before, so that the snowshoes sunk half a foot in the snow, and in places even deeper. The bear track could be seen a distance away. We could see the way the bear had walked, for in spots he had fallen in the snow to his belly and had swept the snow aside. At first we walked in plain sight of the track, through a forest of large trees. Then, when the track went into a small pine wood, Mayan stopped. "We must now give up the track," he said. "He will, no doubt, lie down here. He has been sitting on his haunches, you can see it by the snow. Let us go away from the track and make a circle around him. But we must walk softly and make no noise, not even cough, or we shall scare him." We went away from the track to the left. We walked about 500 steps and there we again saw the track before us. We again followed the track, and this took us to the road. We stopped on the road and began to look around, to see in what direction the bear had gone. Here and there on the road we could see the bear's paws with all the toes printed on the snow, while in others we could see the tracks of a peasant's bast shoes. He had evidently gone to the village. We walked along the road. Mayan said to me, "We need not watch the road. Somewhere he will turn off the road to the right or to the left. We shall see in the snow. Somewhere he will turn off, he will not go to the village." We walked thus about a mile along the road. Suddenly we saw the track turn off from the road. We looked at it and see the wonder. It was a bear's track, but leading not from the road to the woods, but from the woods to the road. The toes were turned to the road. I said, "That is another bear." Mayan looked at it and thought a while. "No," he said, "that is the same bear, only he has begun to cheat. He left the road backwards." We followed the track, and so it was. The bear had evidently walked about 10 steps backwards from the road, until he got beyond a fir tree, and then he had turned and gone on straight ahead. Mayan stopped and said, "Now we shall certainly fall in with him. He has no place but this swamp to lie down in. Let us surround him." We started to surround him, going through the dense pine forest. I was getting tired, and it was now much harder to travel. Now I would strike against a juniper bush and get caught in it, or a small pine tree would get under my feet, or the snowshoes would twist as I was not used to them, or I would strike a stump or a block under the snow. I was beginning to be worn out. I took off my fur coat, and the sweat was just pouring down from me, but Mayan sailed along as in a boat. It looked as though the snowshoes walked under him of their own accord. He neither caught in anything, nor did his shoes turn on him. And he even threw my fur coat over his shoulders, and kept urging me on. We made about 3 versts in a circle and walked past the swamp. Mayan suddenly stopped in front of me and waved his hand. I walked over to him. Mayan bent down and pointed with his hand and whispered to me, "Do you see a magpie is chattering on a windfall? The bird is scenting the bear from a distance. It is he." We walked to one side, made another verst and again hit the old trail. Thus we had made a circle around the bear and he was inside of it. We stopped. I took off my hat and loosened my wraps. I felt as hot as in a bath and was as wet as a mouse. Mayan too was all red and he wiped his face with his sleeve. "Well," he said, "we have done our work, sir, so we may take a rest." The evening glow could be seen through the forest. We sat down on the snowshoes to rest ourselves. We took the bread and salt out of the bags. First I ate a little snow and then the bread. The bread tasted to me better than any I had eaten in all my life. We sat a while. It began to grow dark. I asked Mayan how far it was to the village. "About 12 versts. We shall reach it in the night, but now we must rest. Put on your fur coat, sir, or you will catch a cold." Mayan broke off some pine branches, knocked down the snow, made a bed, and we lay down beside each other with our arms under our heads. I do not remember how I fell asleep. I awoke about 2 hours later. Something crashed. I had been sleeping so soundly that I forgot where I was. I looked around me. What marvel was that? Where was I? Above me were some white chambers and white posts, and on everything glistened white tinsel. I looked up. There was a white checkered cloth, and between the checks was a black vault in which burned fires of all colors. I looked around, and I recalled that we were in the forest, and that the snow-covered trees had appeared to me as chambers, and that the fires were nothing but the stars that flickered between the branches. In the night a hoarfrost had fallen, and there was hoarfrost on the branches, and on my fur coat, and Mayan was all covered with hoarfrost, and hoarfrost fell from above. I awoke Mayan. We got up on our snowshoes and started. The forest was quiet. All that could be heard was the sound we made as we slid on our snowshoes over the soft snow, or when a tree would crackle from the frost, and a hollow sound would pass through the whole woods. Only once did something living stir close to us and run away again. I thought it was the bear. We walked over to the place from where the noise had come, and we saw hare tracks. The young aspens were nibbled down. The hares had been feeding on them. We came out to the road, tied the snowshoes behind us, and walked down the road. It was easy to walk. The snowshoes rattled and rumbled over the beaten road. The snow creaked under our boots. The cold hoarfrost stuck to our faces like down. And the stars seemed to run toward us along the branches. They would flash and go out again, just as though the sky were walking round and round. My companion was asleep. I awoke him. We told him how we had made a circle around the bear and told the landlord to collect the drivers for the morning. We ate our supper and lay down to sleep. I was so tired that I could have slept until dinner, but my companion woke me. I jumped up and saw that my companion was all dressed and busy with his gun. "Where is Mayan?" "He has been in the forest for quite a while. He has investigated the circle and has been back to take the drivers out." I washed myself, put on my clothes, and loaded my guns. We seated ourselves in the sleigh and started. There was a severe frost, the air was calm, and the sun could not be seen. There was a mist above, and the hoarfrost was settling. We travelled about 3 versts by the road and reached the forest. We saw a blue smoke in a hollow, and peasants, men and women, were there with clubs. We climbed out of the sleigh and went up to the people. The peasants were sitting and baking potatoes, and joking with the women. Mayan was with them. The people got up, and Mayan took them away to place them in our last night's circuit. The men and women stretched themselves out in single file. There were 30 of them, and they could be seen only from the belt up, and went into the woods. Then my companion and I followed their tracks. Though they had made a path, it was hard to walk. Still we could not fall, for it was like walking between 2 walls. Thus we walked for half a verst. I looked up, and there was Mayan running to us from the other side on snowshoes, and waving his hand for us to come to him. We went up to him, and he showed us where to stand. I took up my position and looked around. To the left of me was a tall pine forest. I could see far through it, and beyond the trees I saw the black spot of a peasant driver. Opposite me was a young pine growth as tall as a man's stature. In this pine growth the branches were hanging down and stuck together from the snow. The path through the middle of the pine grove was covered with snow. This path was leading toward me. To the right of me was a dense pine forest, and beyond the pine grove there was a clearing. And on this clearing I saw Mayan place my companion. I examined my 2 guns and cocked them, and began to think where to take up a stand. Behind me, about 3 steps from me, there was a pine tree. I will stand by that pine and will lean the other gun against it. I made my way to that pine, walking knee-deep in snow. I tramped down a space of about 4 feet each way, and there took my stand. 1 gun I took into my hands, and the other, with hammers raised, I placed against the tree. I unsheathed my dagger and put it back in the scabbard, to be sure that in case of need it would come out easily. I had hardly fixed myself, when Demayan shouted from the woods, "Start it now, start it." And as Demayan shouted this, the peasants in the circuit cried, each with a different tone of voice, "Come now, oo," and the women cried in their thin voices, "Ai, eek." The bear was in the circle, Demayan was driving him. In the circuit the people shouted, and only my companion and I stood still, did not speak or move, and waited for the bear. I stood and looked and listened, and my heart went pit-a-pat. I was clutching my gun and trembling. Now he will jump out, I thought, and I will aim and shoot, and he will fall. Suddenly I heard to the left something tumbling through the snow, only it was far away. I looked into the tall pine forest. About 50 steps from me, behind the trees, stood something large and black. I aimed and waited. I thought it might come nearer. I saw it move its ears and turn around. Now I could see the whole of him from the side. It was a huge beast. I aimed hastily. Bang! I heard the bullet strike the tree. Through the smoke I saw the bear make back for the cover and disappear in the forest. Well, I thought, my business is spoiled. He will not run up to me again. Either my companion will have a chance to shoot at him, or he will go through between the peasants but never again toward me. I reloaded the gun and stood and listened. The peasants were shouting on all sides, but on the right, not far from my companion, I heard a woman yell, "Here he is, here he is, here he is, this way, this way. Oi, 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 ai, ai, ai." There was the bear in full sight. I was no longer expecting the bear to come toward me, and so looked to the right toward my companion. I saw Demayan running without the snowshoes along the path with a stick in his hand, and going up to my companion, sitting down near him, and pointing with the stick at something as though he were aiming. I saw my companion raise his gun and aim at where Demayan was pointing. Bang! He fired it off. Well, I thought, he has killed him, but I saw that my companion was not running toward the bear. Evidently he missed him, or did not strike him right. He will get away, I thought, but he will not come toward me. What was that? Suddenly I heard something in front of me. Somebody was flying like a whirlwind and scattering the snow nearby and panting. I looked ahead of me, but he was making headlong toward me along the path through the dense pine growth. I could see that he was beside himself with fear. When he was within 5 steps of me, I could see the whole of him. His chest was black and his head was enormous and of a reddish color. He was flying straight toward me and scattering the snow in all directions. I could see by the bear's eyes that he did not see me, and in his fright was rushing headlong. He was making straight for the pine where I was standing. I raised my gun and shot, but he came still nearer. I saw that I had not hit him. The bullet was carried past him. He heard nothing, plunged onward, and did not see me. I bent down the gun, almost rested it against his head. Bang! This time I hit him but did not kill him. He raised his head, dropped his ears, showed his teeth, and straight toward me. I grasped the other gun, but before I had it in my hand he was already on me, knocked me down and flew over me. Well, I thought, that is good, he will not touch me. I was just getting up when I felt something pressing against me and holding me down. In his onrush he ran past me, but he turned around and rushed against me with his whole breast. I felt something heavy upon me, something warm over my face, and I felt him taking my face into his jaws. My nose was already in his mouth, and I felt hot and smelled his blood. He pressed my shoulders with his paws and I could not stir. All I could do was to pull my head out of his jaws and press it against my breast, and I turned my nose and eyes away, but he was trying to get at my eyes and nose. I felt him strike the teeth of his upper jaw into my forehead, right below the hair, and the lower jaw into the cheekbones below the eyes, and he began to crush me. It was as though my head were cut with knives. I jerked and pulled out my head, but he chawed and snapped at me like a dog. I would turn my head away, and he would catch it again. Well, I thought, my end has come. Suddenly I felt lighter. I looked up and he was gone. He had jumped away from me and was running now. When my companion and Demayan saw that the bear had knocked me into the snow, they dashed for me. My companion wanted to get there as fast as possible, but lost his way. Instead of running on the trodden path, he ran straight ahead and fell down. While he was trying to get out of the snow, the bear was gnawing at me. Demayan ran up to me along the path without a gun, just with the stick which he had in his hands, and he shouted, "He is eating up the gentleman, he is eating up the gentleman." And he kept running and shouting, "Oh, you wretched beast, what are you doing? Stop, stop." The bear listened to him, stopped and ran away. When I got up there was much blood on the snow, just as though a sheep had been killed, and over my eyes the flesh hung in rags. While the wound was fresh I felt no pain. My companion ran up to me and the peasants gathered around me. They looked at my wounds and washed them with snow. I had entirely forgot about the wounds and only asked, "Where is the bear? Where has he gone?" Suddenly we heard, "Here he is, here he is." We saw the bear running once more against us. We grasped our guns, but before we fired he ran past us. The bear was mad. He wanted to bite me again, but when he saw so many people he became frightened. We saw by the track that the bear was bleeding from the head. We wanted to follow him up, but my head hurt me, and so we drove to town to see a doctor. The doctor sewed up my wounds with silk, and they began to heal. A month later we went out again to hunt that bear, but I did not get the chance to kill him. The bear would not leave the cover and kept walking around and roaring terribly. Demian killed him. My shot had crushed his lower jaw and knocked out a tooth. This bear was very large and he had beautiful black fur. I had the skin stuffed and it is lying now in my room. The wounds on my head have healed so that one can scarcely see where they were.